Now, during the wars, they had no baseball teams there. They discontinued that. They did continue some men's b-ball and midgets and this type of thing, but they didn't have too many kid teams. Had a c-ball for boys and, like I said, b-boys, and they had a ladies team, basketball. Uh, then at grammar school, we were able to go through the first through the seventh grade. The gymnasium actually had been converted from the old schoolhouse that was two-story wooden, and that later became the gymnasium. They did away with the second floor and converted it into the basketball gymnasium. The restrooms there were converted into the dressing rooms for the one side for the ladies, one side for the boys. We had an old uh, boiler there that we had to stoke and provide steam because we had radiator heat. And we'd have to go over there and build a fire and get the water boiling, in order to get the heat, in order to heat the gym. Later, when I became athletic director, that was my job, go over there and make sure that there was a fire. Actually, at that time also, they not only did you have to do that, but during the baseball season, you had to sweep out the grandstand, the bleacher, and get it ready for baseball games. You lined the field off. You borrowed the truck from the mill over there, and we had big brushes that we would hook onto the back of a truck and drag it around the infield to smooth it, get all the rocks and everything off of it, because it was a ground infield, no grass. But there was always a clot of grass here or there that would cause a bad hop. But anyway, then you had to get ready for game time. You had to line the field off. Then when they had a home game, you had to order the Cokes and things like that. And you had to go get ice to cool the drinks. But it was a pretty demanding job. Then during the days, we had the bowling lanes. We had 6 ABC bowling lanes certified. We had a skating rink there, and you had to go in every morning. I went about 7 o'clock, I guess, and checked up from what the prior receipts were for the skating and the bowling and everything, and what was sold over the counter. Later, we did away with the counter and had vending machines. But you had the bathrooms you had to clean, you had the bowling lanes you had to prepare for the night's bowling. So you had to basically clean them. You would sweep out those in the gutter. Then you didn't have the machines to treat your lanes the way you did now. You had a continuous fly spray that you poured your dressing in, and then you just walked backwards spraying that booger. And then you would, after that, you would go then and come again with a dust thing it was made for it, the size of the lane, pull it over it to even the dressing out to where it wouldn't be too oily or this and that. So you really had no way of properly dressing the lanes. It was either too slick or too dry.
As a kid, a lot of kids in Brandon ended up as pin setters.
Amen.
Down there.
Pin
Tell me
boys.
a little bit about pin boys, yeah.
Well, before we got the semi-automatics, B10s, we relied wholly on pin boys. They had to actually set the pins up. At one time, we had small duck pins as well as the regulation pins. And I think some of the bigger guys or men would want to see how hard they could throw a ball. And when they'd hit those pins, they would just fly and scatter. So it was a little dangerous for the pin boys. I've seen pins fly across the 2 or 3 alleys or over to the restroom. But after we got the semi-automatics, rather than one boy working a lane, we could have one boy work 2 lanes. He could jump between the 2 lanes, with put the pins in the pin setter, and then mash a release, and it would go down and set the pins. But it was a demanding job. It was A lot of times I'd go to work about 7 o'clock in the morning. If we had a baseball game at night, I might get home about 11:30 or 12 o'clock. So my wife did a good job of raising our kids
Yeah.
because I was gone. I know Miss Maybelle Burgess and Billy Burgess, they always said I was just really a professional babysitter, taking care of the kids there with all the kid teams we had. Then you had your elementary school, grades 1 through 7. They had 2 classes of each one, and Miss Mallard was the principal when I was going through there. I can remember one time because I never did give any trouble. My daddy bought me a new scout knife. I just joined the scouts and everything. We had those cane bottom chairs in the 6th grade down there. And Miss Mallard come to visit our class one time. Well, I had taken my knife out and I'd cut every one of those cane straps except one in each corner. And which chair did Miss Mallard get? The one that I had just worked on. So she went through that booger. She wanted to know who did that. Because I knew what was coming because it was rubber tube time then. So that's how they got a hold of it. Thank you. And so, but she looked at me and said, "You did that?" Lloyd, I go by, that's my alias name, Lloyd. I'm really Pete. But anyway, she said, "Lloyd, I can't believe you did that." She said, I thought she was going to say, "Come on, we'll go up to the office and I'll tear you up." But she said, "Give me your knife." And I knew then I was going to get a whipping when I got home anyway. So I gave her the knife, and she said, "You'll get that when you pay me 75 cents to have this chair repaired." So I knew to get 75 cents, I had to tell my daddy. And I knew to tell my daddy, I knew what was going to happen. So grammar school was good because all the kids, you knew everybody really. In fact, I think you just about knew everybody that lived on every street.